So, good morning. We're really excited to have this presentation. Margot has been a member with us for a while, and I think you're going to learn some great tools for your business, and we'll have opportunities for question and answers after the presentation. So I just wanted to, if you have any questions, you always can call 212-CHAMBER, but I just want to get you guys on a timely basis, keep to our schedule, and I'm going to introduce Margot. We're very excited to have you.
Thank you.
I'm just going to close this and have people enter.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming. Thank you so much for coming. I know it's an early morning to get out here, so I just so appreciate you guys responding and showing up, you know, which is really half the battle, right?
It is.
Yeah.
It is, right? So let me tell you a little bit about me. I started Margot's Bookkeeping 15 years ago when I had my first baby. And this is my daughter. She's my second. And I just wanted a way to work like 15 hours a week while my son was sleeping. And I thought it was the impossible. And while he was sleeping, you know, I got work and I was that stay-at-home mom who was working and I had my schedule. And then all of a sudden one day it turned into a business of things that I had that other business owners wanted. And I was like a hot mess back then. You know, I had my first kid, we bought a house, and there was all these sorts of things going on. And each day you're in a different way of learning of the curve. And like here we are today, and there's so much technology, right? Like here I am with a video person, my daughter, and all these fun things. And back then, I sat for Google classes when I wanted to advertise my business. I put my kids to sleep, and I could never afford to pay for SEO services. So I would go at night after I had my client product work, and I would go sit in Google classes. I made my own website. And I don't share this with you because it's like, Margot, you did all of that and you're great. I share this because now there's so many ways that I can cut through that chase for you and that you don't have to go through that grind. That's where today's presentation came out, to really share things with you on some ways that I felt were really helpful for me and other entrepreneurs that I work with. Just before I start, in the goodie bags, I gave you guys some Post-its. Everybody loves Post-its. And then during the day when you want something fun, there's like a little bit of a puzzle. You know, I always thought, like, you look at those Rubik's Cubes and then they're like, how are you getting those done, right? So when I saw the puzzle, I thought it was a great idea. You guys ready?
Yes.
Okay. So the topic for today is automating your numbers. Tips to delegate your way to a successful business. Now, it goes into, you know, I'm in business now 16 years, and it's even something simple like a scheduling app. You can go to your calendar and you can put it in. Or you can have all these special apps that do things for you so that it saves you time. And back in the day, I used to pride myself of doing all these things myself. But then what happens is that you have this vision. You have this business that you want to create. And every day it seems farther and farther of how you're going to get there. How many of us are entrepreneurs? Raise your hands. Great. So this is going to be a little bit of a test. So be honest with yourselves, because the more you put into this, the more you're going to get out of it. So how many of you use your business bank account for personal expenses and business? Okay. So what happens in there, it's like, if you think of it, if you ever ate like a stew, like a Moroccan stew or like a beef stew, it's a whole bunch of things mixed in a pot, right? So you have your beautician, if you're going to the haircut, for, you know, going for like a shave, or you're buying a suit, it's all mixed into one pot. And then at the same time, you have all these business expenses where it's all into the same area and you don't know what's really happening. How many of you do not have a great system to manage your paperwork? What do you guys currently do, if I can ask?
I do it myself.
How do you do it? Can you give me an example?
I just keep all my stuff in an Excel, and also my paperwork, whatever, and go to my accounts, and of course, I keep it all in different files.
Perfect. Perfect. How many of us don't utilize accounting software each month and we just feel like that we're winging it? Okay, so accounting software is something like, a lot of entrepreneurs these days, they even use like Excel. Excel is fabulous, but what happens is with Excel is that it's all formula based. So if you're not putting in the right formula, if you miss a cell, you're all gonna be like in this messy hot zone where it's just not gonna go anywhere. Now, you can use software like QuickBooks, you can use Xero. There's all these sorts of softwares that support you. So when you don't use it, you're always on this catch up and like this hamster wheel. How many of us feel like we're the service provider? How about you feel like you're the bookkeeper and the accountant also? Right? And we're paying the bills? It all goes into the stew, right? We keep stirring the stew, and then at a point it gets harder to stir, where it's as if you're like that deadlift that you want to get to, you know, when you want to pull that weight off the ground and you can't get it because there's more in that pot. But we're the one who runs the business now. So we have to find the time to be the service provider, the bookkeeper, the bill pay. We have to pay the bills, and you got to pay them on time, because then we worry about our credit. We have to run the business. So we're wearing about 10 different hats, right? Yeah. How's that feel?
That's good.
It feels good?
I like that.
Can I ask you a question? What makes you like it?
I keep in control of everything.
Uh-huh.
So I have 3 businesses.
Okay.
And I wear all the hats in each business.
Got it. Huh. Okay.
Yeah, I like that.
You like that?
I'm all organized. I feel like I'm not out of control. It doesn't feel like muck like the way you describe. To me, it's like a well-poured smoothie.
A well-poured smoothie. Got it.
But that's just me.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Can I ask what kind of business is there?
Sure. One business is a property management business.
Mm-hmm.
One business is an M&A firm.
Mm-hmm.
My own entrepreneur firm, and the other one is I'm also running a charter, aircraft charter.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So there's good news and bad news on this test. You guys ready?
Yes. All right. What's the good news?
What's the good news?
Yes.
There's potential of a smoothie. But there's the potential of the hard stew too also, right? You all mostly failed the test. Well, here we are today, and I can share with you valuable tips so that you don't flunk this test again. So why do I say that? You know, as a business owner, when you're mixing business and personal expenses, and you're not taking advantage of any automation, there's no way ever to move up the ladder. So you can always be making, and there's nothing wrong with staying stagnant of where you are if that's where you want to be, but then there's no work balance, there's no freedom, there's no chance to take days off and then a computer-free holiday. So taking advantage of these things help you be able to get to those. So this Passover was probably the first Passover, I would say, I fully unplugged because I was really taking advantage of all the different types of things that were out there, and the business was still running. So the first tip we're going to talk about today is separation of powers. Separation of powers is mixing business and personal expenses. So now, it's not good to have everything in one pot with zero order. What happens is that you can have your kid's tuition bill along with a bicycle purchase. You can also have your grocery bill. And now there's a lot of ways to interchange things. But now with a lot of the new tax laws, it's not in your best interest to keep going that way. Eventually you're going to want credit. Eventually you're going to want to scale the business, and it's going to come to a point where some type of health thing is going to come where you need to walk away for the business and you don't want it to flunk. Now, a few years ago, I had a very big health issue. I had a problem with my right hip. I had a tear, and I still have it today. But what was happening was, from that experience, is that everything was relying on me. So if I went to the doctor in the morning and I sat for therapy, all my work would wait for me until I was done. So if I didn't go way early in the morning, I wasn't able to get my work done and still service my clients and make my check. So now, when you're paying for groceries with the business credit card, again, it's all into one pot. So the question is why isn't this a good idea? Now, something like I think she said before, she was like, I go to my accountant at the end of the year. Now, when you go to your accountant at the end of the year and you just hand him your expenses, he has no idea what's real business and what's personal. Most of the accountants these days, at least the ones I've been working with for over 10 years, they look at the numbers and they're really just copy and pasting them onto the tax return. But there's zero value in that. You have real no knowledge of where you're going. You have no idea if you could save for retirement. If you could just save for yourself every single day. If you can have a profitable business at the end of the year, be able to pay your taxes, and do all these sorts of things by having this business. So when you put it all into that one pot, you're losing the chances. It goes down and down and down. Now, my business is with mainly service providers, and my specialty is in construction, real estate, designers, architects. I work a lot with that. And working with them, they are all professionals at mixing them all. And then what happens is that at the end of the year, that they're wondering why they have no money, a lot of them. And because their bank accounts have money, they feel that they don't need it. But once they're ready to make an investment, or they need to take a draw, or an emergency happens, different things come up where all the things that we thought didn't matter on why accounting principles should be applied now matter. So with your accountant, if you don't have the proper classification of expenses, you have no idea what goes on. So let's say something simple like the telephone bill, right? I haven't looked at my telephone bill in a while, but it's a basic line. I have a line and I have the internet on it, right? You want to know how much internet is. You want to know how much the phone is. Having these line items when you want to minimize expenses for growth is a big thing so that you know where to cut. For me, I do my own books, and looking at the expenses and knowing how much I spend, I was able to shave just last month about $150 off of my expenses, and I just sat for like a half an hour. Things that mattered to me then that don't matter to me now. So, for instance, you sign up for an annual subscription versus a monthly subscription. For me, lots of times I sign up for monthly, even if I'm not saving the money, because it's serving me now in my business. It doesn't mean it's going to serve me later, and then you're stuck with these subscriptions. But the big thing is with the expenses is to itemize is that, let's say your business needs the growth, and in foreseeable you want to pay rent. You want to rent machinery, or you want to buy a car, you want to lease a car. Any of these big items, you're not able to do that if you don't know where your money is going. So I'll give you a quick story. Last month, I was looking over my assistant's hours, and she went over. Now, it wasn't the end of the world. It was maybe like that same $150 that I said I saved in the other area. But looking at that, I was able to see where her time was spent by knowing that I had that itemized, because I want her to spend even more time, if anything, but the budget I set wasn't right. And for me, if she has more money, I'm a happier person and I get more work done. My client work is better. So there's all sorts of advantages depending on the business. Mixing funds will make it impossible for a profit and loss statement to be provided. So if you look at a P&L, the biggest thing, entrepreneurs come to me and they look at it and they just really have no idea. They just have no idea. And a profit and loss, it should speak for itself, but if you don't set it up properly, you're not getting the information out that you need. So why do we need this financial statement? Does anybody know? Mm-hmm.
What your gains and losses are,
Mm-hmm.
to ensure that you basically know each month. It's expense, it's loss, it's purchase, whatever it is. It's in detail, it's there to point out for you where your business stands for that period.
Mm-hmm. How many of us look at it?
Every time, each time, almost every.
Every week? How often do you look?
I look at it every 6 months.
Every 6 months? Oh no. We gotta look at it every month.
Our financial statements?
Yeah. There's a reason why
Profit
we're...
and loss?
Uh-huh.
For me, 6 months.
No. We gotta talk.
Oh,
So why do we need it? The reasons are on the board, right? One day we're gonna need a mortgage.
You need to know where your payroll is.
Uh-huh.
What did you spend? What do you bank cancellations are? Your purchase orders are? I mean, it's so much in there that it's black and white. How your business is doing.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I look at it every week is because I need to balance and ensure where I need to work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So that's an excellent point. That's an excellent point, is that I know when I looked at it, there were certain things that I wasn't working on. Like, I'm doing work product of bookkeeping and accounting for everyone else, but then it's kind of like Margot has to find the time for her own business too. So when I look at it, it's the exact point of what she said. It sees what we need to work on. If an area is too high, but it could be also that the area is needed for that high. You know, like my payroll and my outsourcing amount seems high, but my whole business is outsourced. So depending on the business, it could be relevant or it could need work, you know, and it's just a number. But if it helps us run, it's all how we think about it. So I'll give you an example. My mentor, he categorizes the scheduling app. He calls it in his budget ways that keeps boundaries between him and his clients. Because if you look at it, a scheduling app, when I started to use mine, minus $27 a month. It's a lot of money, right? But with that $27 a month, it sinks into all the other things that I do, so that when someone schedules, it's all over the place and there's nothing for me to do. Every so often technology fails, of course, but the whole advantage to these is that it does the work for you, even when you're not around, that you're not sitting there and having to put your hands in every pot. So it's going to be a time when you need a mortgage, you're going to need a loan, and sometimes our expenses are going to exceed what we make. And this is where a financial statement like a P&L is going to be helpful for us. Now, even something as opening up a credit card. I have one client who opening up a business credit card was a big deal. He was doing everything under his personal name, and it came to where he needed to move everything under the business. His marital situation, his partner's situation, so it needed to be cleaned up. And he wasn't able to get it because he had no financial statement. So he was running a business all these years, he was making money, but he couldn't get something simple like a credit card in his benefit. And then he got it, but it was a low limit that he had to pay it every week to be able to keep up so that he can use the credit card. So all these things come up in our business that really it's tools that eventually we need. So if we set it from the beginning, it helps us forward. Now, financial growth is the big thing, where there is generally a time where expenses could exceed what you make, and it's a very big stressful thing. But the support with that is you have the financial statements that at any given point you can look back at them and to be able to know where you are. Because there's nothing worse than where you feel like you're overspending, but the potential of what you're bringing in is far greater than the short risk of what you're doing. And minimizing that is, I suggest that only with a professional to really know that situation. Now, the next tip is systems. There's all sorts of things for customer relations, and you have CRMs. You have Infusionsoft, you have Constant Contact. Some are cheaper than others. MailChimp, and calendar booking. So calendar booking, I just told you, you can use something free. I think Calendly is free. There's also, I think there's paid versions, and you have to look at why you would. Mine, that's the $27 is schedule once. And for me, it serves the purpose because it goes into the software Infusionsoft, which now they updated it, they call it Keep. So Infusionsoft is something, some people call it Confusionsoft, but the real new name is Keep. Constant Contact and MailChimp are more affordable ways to at least get going, where you can put automation in there to put all your emails and your email listings so that you can send out nurture emails, news blasts, tips, and all sorts of things to your clients. So that they remember you and that you're on their front of their head, of their brain, that if they need something, they go to you. Now, with accounting software, there's various ones out there. There's the main two that I support is QuickBooks and Xero. Now, her and I were just talking, depending on what level you are, you can get something as low as $10 a month. There's definitely free stuff out there like Excel, but the advantage is the automation and the built-in technology that's going to support you to move your business forward and upwards to where you want to scale. Xero, depending on who you are, it's really written in the sense of clients where it's not written in like accounting lingo. It's more meant for like an average person who really doesn't know accounting. So it's really taken from such a way of like a consumer standpoint and not like an accountant. But at the same time, there's a lot of benefits. For me, my clientele is mostly in QuickBooks, but I'm just sharing with you, different ones that that are available. Good morning. Thanks for coming. So let me tell you why. Now, having an accounting software, as I just talked about, but the main benefits is that it's going to improve your financial accuracy. The more accurate you are, the more you're going to see out of it. I'll give you a quick story, and I'll share with you the accuracy, like how important it is. So let's say you owe 3 vendors $51.24, $72.50, and $62.38. Now, for me, years ago, I would be like, I owe that guy $6 grand, $5 grand. But what happens is that's like an average. I'm guesstimating in my head. But what's happening? There's around $300 off on each of those expenses. That's still another $1,000 that you have to pay. So the advantage of the accuracy is really knowing down to the dollar of what you owe. You see what's coming in, you see what's going out, you know what's coming in, you have a timing that you're able to predict. You know your profit, you know how much you're really making. My designer clients, they do a lot of, they buy things, and when they buy things, they want to know how much it costs versus how much they make. The big question is money well spent in the right area? So now we really think that we're spending things in the right area, and we don't know. For instance, last year, I invested in a networking group that I thought was valuable. And at the end, I looked at it this year, and it wasn't. It wasn't worth the amount of time that I was spending. I love giving value, but it wasn't worth the literal dollar outlay that I had to have versus what, versus what I was getting. If you want to make more money, you should only complete income-generating activities. So this leads us into our next thing about delegating. Now, 10 years ago, I did everything in my business. I did the assistant jobs. I did the Google job. I did everything. But what happens is that my income-generating tasks were later and later in my day. So what I was able to really make money from was really just getting pushed off every day. And it was not the first thing. So making more sales and client productivity are the two things that we need in the business to survive and not be out of business. So when you hand it over to experts, they're doing it. So let's talk about my VA again. She was away last week, and I sat in her position in addition to what else was my job task. I was pulling my hair out. I didn't do it in months. Now I'm sitting into the position, so all the things that she was doing, my scheduling app, my answering my emails, and now we're thinking like, oh, is Margot too big to do these things? No, it's just that my time is better spent on other things instead of doing those tasks that is not where I can bring in the most money for myself. So my heart of my day is spent on where I'm going to be the most valuable, is in where my hourly rate is worth my time. Systems and delegations will change how you'll do business. So the three key reasons is it reduces what you need to do. Who feels like when they wake up in the morning that their to-do list is like spilling over? How's that feel to wake up to?
Stressful.
It's like Advil, please, here we come, right? And then you're putting out like 10, 12 things. 10, 12 things is not getting done because we all have the same, depending on your workday, 6 to 10 hours, 12 hours. I even heard 14 and all these other colorful. How many hours do we work a day? 12? 10?
14.
14. 14. I've been there. I've been there. Now, when you reduce what you need to do, you get to streamline, you get to scale, and then our dreams come closer. It doesn't seem farther and farther in like Utah when we're sitting here in New York. It frees up our time and it's less stress, and that vacation that we want, it's actually real. It's actually real. We could actually go to the phone or go now to Google, right? Right? And book it. So how many of us want to reduce our stress? I know I do, right? Do I get an amen? Okay. So should we delegate is the question.
Yes.
Good. Delegation test, let's brain dump. So I use brain dump when I have so much going on in my head, but I need to tell it to my team, I need to tell it to my client, I need to tell it to my kids, and I have all these things going on. So I take a whiteboard, and we're going to check mark the activities that are income generating. So now take 2 minutes, if you guys have a piece of paper, and see if you were to delegate, what would you delegate? Now, nobody's actually doing this. So come on, take out a pen. Huh? I have my Post-its. Thank you. Aww.
All right. Want us to write it down?
Yeah. Let's put down at least 3, ideally 5 activities that if you were to delegate to someone, what would it be?
Design.
Design?
Yeah.
Okay.
I design my web, I design MailChimp because I was a designer before being a makeup artist.
Mm-hmm.
So now I think like I'm doing so many things that I will.
Do you guys need a pen? Yeah?
And things that I don't like to do anymore, but someone will love to do it.
Got it. Perfect. Love it. So put down the 3 to 5 and really be honest with yourself. Because what you would delegate, is that your genius zone? And what is Margot talking about, my genius zone? She's a makeup artist. She belongs putting on makeup, right? She does not want to be doing this design stuff. It's not what she wants to do. I'll be honest, I don't like answering emails. I'm not good at it. I'm just not good at it. I like to talk to people. I like to be here in front of a room. I like to converse. I love my Zoom sessions where I get to look at my clients or my prospects and just talk and hear what they have to say. So now, check mark the activities that are income generating. So now look at your list and tell me, is anything that you would delegate, is that income generating? I'm going to pick on you.
Well, one of the things on my list is following up to make sure people are going to be at their appointments, right? So
Follow up?
Yeah, I hate doing that. And making sure that they're going to be there. So I'd love to have another way or somebody to follow up for me. So is that income generating? The appointment could be a income generating appointment, yes.
Okay, but how much time would that save you if you didn't have to do it?
You know, it's not a matter of a lot of time. It's just to ensure that I don't think professionally I should be doing. I'd rather have somebody that's representing me.
Great. You wrote it down?
Excuse me?
You wrote it down?
I wrote it down.
You wrote it down? Okay.
I wrote it down.
Now, you need to eliminate the time draining tasks. Like for me, setting up my appointments, the opposite for him. For me, that's a time drain. Because what ends up happening is that I'm looking to, right? Yeah. But so what happens is that I'm looking to confirm it. I end up just doing the call right down and there, which is ridiculous. So I was saying in my own way, perfect, right? So really setting up our calendar for all the right tasks is huge. Non-income generating tasks is your key to success. So some of the ideas of delegation is a VA, it's a virtual assistant. How about a content writer? Now, I have a lot of things that go on in MBS, and my writing is, it's just a wreck. It's just a wreck. It's like when you wake up in the morning and you feel like that headache, that's my writing. But instead what I did was I have somebody on board in my group that he writes for me and takes everything that of my jargon and then he makes it ready for the public to understand. And it takes time for all these things for you to be comfortable with, but as you need it, you take it on. So like right now, my content writer, I was so dependent on him for a while, and now I have so much content from him that I don't really need him as much anymore because I've built from there. Because sometimes we have just a short window of things that we need. It's not a long run. It could be like a 5-month window that we need something to really get us that boost. A delegation could be a bookkeeper too. You want to scale the business, you want to do all these sorts of things, and then it's like a P&L is like your blueprint also. You could also think of your P&L as a blueprint. So if you have a bookkeeper, and a lot of people throw out these words, they don't even know what it means. They don't even know what it means. They're like, I have an accountant, I go to him at the end of the year. But if you go to him at the end of the year, an accountant, does he follow your taxes? How does he get the numbers? Is he reliable? This is the big thing, does he pick up the phone? Does he pick up the phone and does he answer your questions? I know those are the two key things that people, when they call me, that they are so frustrated because they can't find them. And the guy is generally, he's hiding under piles and piles of pieces of paper because that was the old way of doing it. Automation ensures that the business is running its own. So that's where ensures the business is not running you. Now, I would tell you 10 years ago, my business was running me, but it's not running me anymore. By taking care, by having these tips that I shared with you today, it's more stuff that like when you wake up and you go to a client or you speak to a client on the phone, you can feel like your shoulders are down and open and wide and proud and relaxed, versus when you're doing everything yourself And then you have that, like, you know, that stressed out feeling like you want to go into the corner because you have all this to-do list that's off the charts. So those were the 3 steps to help you delegate your way to success, which is not commingling your finances, software, and delegating non-essential tasks. Those are my 3 key things that I hope you guys enjoyed today. These 3 strategies will help you stay in your genius zone. You can streamline and delegate. Now again, delegating, it can be very scary at first because how is that worker working? Are you giving them enough instructions? Now recently I've taken all how I work, my processes, and I put it on a piece of paper and I make looms for them so that when they have a problem, they have a place to go. So that if they don't know how to do something, they have a place to go of my process on how I want things. Because nothing worse is paying for a staff and then the work is wrong. How many of us experienced that? Right? How'd that go? Terrible, right? Because we didn't set them up for success. And I'll tell you, I know I keep picking on my VA, but she did something that was like a disaster 2 weeks ago, and I was upset. And then I looked at the situation, I was talking to my mentor about it, and what happened? I screwed up. I didn't give her the tools for her success. So me being upset, it's a reflection on me because I did not set her up for success. So that's where when you delegate, you still need to spend the time in the role and do the things and teach them with what you want. So now you can do this yourself. They are not having the success, but now that you can do this yourself, you're not having the success you desire, you will be alone and no one turns to like I was in. So now you can take all these tips and you can totally implement them yourself and life will change, right? And you're gonna be like, oh, I learned all these great new tips and my life is gonna change, I'm gonna scale my business and everything's gonna be great. Or my gift to you is you can have a 30-minute assessment with me and we could do a laser focus on your business and I can share with you different things on action tips to help you. So my gift for you today is I gave you guys like a little bit of a survey and those are the questions that help me help you. So there's no pressure to have my services or anything, but it's my gift for coming out today so early in the morning of knowing what's going on in your business and a bunch of action steps that I can give you so that you can move your business forward and upwards. I welcome you to take full advantage so you can change your business. Because that's what we're all here for, right?
Yes.
I want to thank you for being here. And I want to thank you. You should all have $1 million in revenue and we should be self-made millionaires. I'm getting the smiles, come on, right?
Yes.
Right? Okay. And if you want to start growing and implementing these strategies, build the system structure. Because there's so many businesses these days, they scale, but they don't have the structure. Now, no structure, eventually you just fall. Or you just continue to be on the same spot. So there's plenty of clients that are making 4 or 5 million. And it sounds like a lot of money, but they don't have this, they're stressed out all the time and they have no support. So it's great, but eventually if something goes wrong and they plummet down to 2 million, and a lot of us are like, I would still be happy, right? At 2 million, I would still be happy. But these guys are used to the 5 million. So life is going to change for them and life is going to be a catastrophe. So how one thinks of 250,000 or even 50,000 is the same, it's all relative. I hope you guys have a successful business, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.